There was a lot going on there, wasn't there?
On my command.
Time is beginning to run wild.
Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume. Things like the MCU, things like Star Trek, things like Doctor Who. And we're on to Chapter 3 of Doctor Who Flux, the midpoint of the series. And I predicted that we would get quite a lore-heavy episode in this one, and they did not disappoint on that. We definitely got quite a lot of lore, a bit of history, but a few answers, but yet more questions, which is kind of what I expected. But there was a lot going on there. A lot of different elements, some of which I liked more than others. And honestly, I did find it a little bit difficult to keep up. Now, partly that was due to having two small children in the room who were making a lot of noise, and therefore I didn't quite hear everything, and I have only watched this once. This is also only my very first initial thoughts on the episode. I have just seen it the one episode time, and I think with so much in this episode, it's the kind of episode that even had I not had kids running around making loads of noise, I think I would need to watch this a second time to really digest it and really know what I think. But I'm still going to give you my initial thoughts anyway. Obviously, this being a serialized series, we've got the resolution to the cliffhanger from last week, which is one of the elements I was slightly disappointed at, because it was basically just hey, the Doctor points the sonic screwdriver in the air, does something techno-babbly, and the cliffhanger is kind of solved. I suppose, partly solved, and then she spent the rest of the episode fully solving it. But it was still a little bit easy, I think, just to point your sonic screwdriver everywhere. The 13th Doctor's had a lot of criticism for overusing the sonic, and I don't always agree with that criticism, but I think it probably is warranted here. It just felt a little bit too easy. And then all craziness breaks loose, and people are popping up in different scenarios with different people. The Doctor, as we know her, is flickering in and out of other people's vision type time streams, whatever's going on there, and it's hard. It was hard to follow, and again, I stress I did have two small kids running around, but I think it was hard to follow anyway, slightly, unless you were really paying attention. So, but I liked a lot of what we got in those moments. The pre-title sequence intrigued me a little bit because we get a world where post-Flux, seemingly, devastated universe, time is running amok, the universe is in ruins. There is this character of Belle. We hear, title comes up, Belle's story. We don't know who she is, and I was intrigued with that. We get some answers by the end of it. But this whole universe, we even get some Daleks. We get the Dalek sector. She's in the Dalek sector, apparently. We get some Daleks, that's all they do. They're just kind of in the background. One thing about this episode, and her storyline in particular, I feel I'm going in right with all the negative stuff before I get to the positives here. I don't mean to do that, because there is a lot of positives as well. But the throwing in the Daleks and the Cybermen later on, they both kind of felt like they were just kind of chucked in there. And I'm in a bit of two minds about it. Partly, I like the way these are races that absolutely would take advantage of the Flux, so it absolutely makes sense. But it does also have that feel of, hey, let's just throw the fan favourites in there for a little cameo. So I'm in two minds. I think I need to rewatch it. I didn't mind the I quite liked it when the Daleks came up, but when the Cybermen were kind of used in the same way, I was like, oh, okay. The Cybermen even did get used more, so I guess there is that. So we have Dan and Yaz being thrown into their timelines. They kind of end up back in present-day Earth. Yaz having an interaction with her... Well, first of all, having an interaction with another police officer in a police car, and the Doctor keeps on flittering in. Then playing that video... Her playing video games with the Doctor is actually her playing her video games with her sister, and the Doctor keeps on flittering in and talking to her and telling what's going. Out of the two, I would say Yaz's is slightly more interesting because of the Weeping Angel stuff. Dan's stuff was okay. It was, I don't think this was a particularly heavy episode for stuff to Dan to do. He had quite a lot of good stuff last episode, so I'm not too fussed about that. It was kind of there, kind of set up the whole, reminded us who Diane is and their relationship, so that when we found out she was passenger later on, it kind of, that was the reminder there for why she's significant to him. But the two most interesting parts for me were definitely kind of the Doctor's time stream and Vinder's time stream. The Doctor's one because, hey, we got Ruth back. We got to see Ruth. Everyone was wondering whether or not Ruth would be in this series, and she is, and I am thrilled because it's great to have the actress back as well, but also, and her portrayal of the Doctor briefly, but also, the little bits of lore that we get to learn, a few answers to the questions that then prompt more questions, and also just what it gave us from Jodie Whittaker, because I think these were Jodie Whittaker's strongest scenes in a while, where she got to show us what a great actress she is, because she was playing when she was that version of the Doctor, when she was basically being the Ruth Doctor, the fugitive Doctor, that version of the Doctor. She was completely different from how she is as her Doctor, and it just shows her acting talent there, that she can also just switch between the two, because the Doctor we know bleeds into this, and so suddenly she gets recognition like, wait, where am I? And seeing the contrast between the two, both are great in their own ways, but it just shows that Jodie Whittaker has such a great range. And I absolutely loved seeing that version of the Doctor with the kind of fierce, the kind of general as well. We know now that the Ruth Doctor was kind of some kind of, when she was part of the division, was some kind of military commander of some kind, leading a, I don't know, crack squad on a mission, a crack squad of 4 on a mission. They all appear in this scene as Yaz, Dan, and Vinder, but they're not actually them. They are sort of fill-ins to other people, and we see this throughout various ones of these time streams where people hop in and we see them, and the characters sometimes see them as people they are not. Yaz keeps on popping up in Vinder's, for instance. But I really love the stuff. It got me really excited about what more we're going to learn about the Doctor's past in these scenes. And just like, it really makes me want to see more of the Ruth Doctor, because if that's the kind of, we got hints of that with Fugitive of the Jadoon, this being this more sort of like hard-ass Doctor, and I loved seeing Jodie do that. I want to see Ruth Doctor do that more as well. And I just love the whole scene, basically. Anything on Atropos was great. Then you've got Vinder. Now, Vinder, in the last 2 episodes, he's been in them, but I wouldn't say we've got a real feel for his character until now. This episode was really kind of his episode, in a way. We got a sense of who he is, what drives him. We got to find out a bit about his past, who he works for, this serpent. We don't know much about who the serpent is. The serpent is responsible for forming some kind of alliance, but he's a bit of a dictator type figure in a corrupt bureaucracy, that when Vinder is disgusted by some of the actions that this man is taking and tries to report him through official channels, he ends up just getting relegated to Outpost Rose, which is where we met him. And it really shows the strength of Vinder's character. He's, the honourable man, the man that will stand up for what is right, even if it means he is going to suffer the consequences of that because he's in a corrupt system. He wants to do the right thing. He wants to try and change the system, and it doesn't always work out for him, but that doesn't stop him. He's going to keep going. That's the kind of person Vinder is. I really feel we got a sense of who Vinder is in this episode, which we were lacking in the other 2 episodes, which was fine because we'd just been introduced to him. This is his episode, and I loved it. He also knows what a TARDIS is. So, what is this? He gets introduced to TARDIS. I love his TARDIS introduction scene, by the way, when he gets shown by Yaz, not the Doctor, into the TARDIS, and he pokes his head in, and his wow there is one of the best reactions I think I've seen to... it completely contrasts with Dan's very understated reaction to finding it. He's just like blown away and knows what a TARDIS is. So again, has the Serpent got something to do with Gallifrey, or is this just like another race that knows about them? What's going on there? The Weeping Angels do feature in this episode a little bit. We see one very early on in the kind of time storm, I think the Doctor calls it, and the Doctor sees it there and goes, "What are you doing here?" And then it disappears, and the rest of the scenes start. But then it shows up again, seemingly stalking Yaz. She sees it in the reflection of the mirrors and the police car. She sees it in the video game she's playing with her sister. And then at the very end, we get the cliffhanger where it appears on her phone, and then the image of the angel becomes an angel, as we know they can do. And they take over the TARDIS, and that's the cliffhanger into next week's very angel-centric episode. So they've been gently eased in, the angels, because we had them in episode 1 stalking Claire, I think her name was, wasn't it? And sending Claire back in time. Then we've had them a bit more in this episode. We didn't have them last week, but we've had them a bit more this week. And next week, it's their episode. Looking forward to it. Going back to Vinder, I like the fact that this Bell woman is looking for him because it implies that they're partners, lovers, husband and wife, something like that, and she's expecting his baby, it seems. So they're both hunting for each other now across the devastated universe that has been devastated by the Flux. We leave off with the Doctor sending him on his way with a communicator, which I'm sure he'll be using at some point to get in contact with them. And that's where we leave Vinder. I'm intrigued to see how much of that we see, especially if we're going to see any of it next week, given that it's next week in the next time bit seemed very focused on almost like a self-contained story, but we'll see. I couldn't see anything from like the story arc elements of it, so we'll see about that. So overall, I was a little bit confused about this episode. Oh, the tunnels guy briefly showed up again as well, fighting some monsters, some demons or something he called them, with a laser gun. And the continuing mystery of the guy in the tunnels. When is that going to start playing in? When are we going to find out what that's about? I'm going to predict episode 5. But yeah, I like this episode. And I like especially the Doctor stuff on Atropos, the sort of alternate Doctor, the Roof Doctor on Atropos, and the Vinder stuff were my favourites. Yaz and Dan, they were there. I didn't dislike their bits, but they were kind of just there. That I had a few little issues with how they got out of situations in terms of the cliffhanger and how they were just throwing Daleks and Cybermen in. But when the Cybermen were there, it was an interesting fight. And it does do that world building thing. So I think I can let that go too. And overall, I think this was a good episode. Not quite as good as last week, I don't think, but pretty solid still. I'm still really enjoying this serial. Looking forward to seeing what we get next week. Let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Have you got any wild theories? What do you think's happening with all of these elements that we've got? What's happening with the guy in the tunnels? Give me your tunnel theories, people, okay? Want to know your tunnel theories? Maybe I'll make a video on it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. Thanks for watching. I will see you soon. Goodbye. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz.